West, y'all.
So WALTAG, for our listeners that haven't heard or don't know what WALTAG is, can you just update on what
sure.
you guys' organisation is? And
Yeah,
what you guys do?
so West Auckland Licensing Trusts Action Group. So we formed a few years ago around the trust monopoly here in West Auckland. So the trusts have a monopoly over certain classes of liquor license. So pretty much all off licenses, and pubs and hotels, or taverns and hotels for on licenses. So only the trusts can run a bottle store or a pub here in West Auckland, and the supermarkets can't play. And if you're a private person, you want to open a bar, then you have to be very careful that your bar is actually a restaurant that serves alcohol and not a bar that serves food. So that's kind of the state of play. We don't really, as a group, our sort of reason for being is to advocate for competition for the end of the monopoly. As I said, we've been about 3 or 4 years, I think it has been, since the group formed. We ran a petition to try and trigger a referendum, but unfortunately that came up short. We handed it over, I think, October last year, and the scrutineer checks how many signatures you've got and how many are valid and how many are duplicates, and we needed, I think, 17,200, and we had 16,300, I think, for the Waitaki Licensing Trust. So
was that 1,600 after the scrutiny?
Yeah, so we handed over about 38,000 signatures, and we thought we had enough.
Because it's double,
more than double what we needed. But we knew there would be like a good chunk of them, because it took us such a long time to collect them, that we knew a good chunk would be duplicated. You know, people would have signed twice because it had been so long, and that you get about a third, maybe 33 to 40% of them are people who either don't live in the area or have not kept their electoral roll details up to date. So they do live in the area, but they're not enrolled to vote in the area. So so you lose about a third to sort of 40% of your signatures that way, and then you got the duplicate. So we thought we had enough. We thought we were reasonably safe. That's why we handed it over. But it turned out that we had more duplicates than we realised.
Yeah, and it really, I think it was sort of quite exacerbated with COVID, because that was basically like 2 years that our collecting the signatures really was put on hold, and during that period, obviously, like a lot of people moved. West Auckland's got there's a lot of people that move anyway. It's quite a young population, quite high levels of movement amongst electorates. So after that 2 year period of COVID, it sort of really put a bit of a dent in.
COVID made it really hard to collect signatures. One thing that you find collecting signatures on a petition is that you really need to get in front of people with a piece of paper and a pen. It's really the only effective way. You can collect signatures online and so on, but you'll collect some, but maybe you'll get 10% of your signatures that way. You'll get 90% of them by being face to face with people and asking them to sign. And when you're just like staying home and keeping safe, you can't do it. So, that kind of like, as soon as COVID arrived, things kind of got really hard for us to get more signatures. And that was part of the reason too why we took the risk and handed it over when we did, because we didn't see the opportunity to collect more signatures in the foreseeable, in the immediate future anyway. So it was like, hand it over now, or sit tight for however many more months, and how many people will move on and move away. I think this is probably our best chance right now to get a successful petition. And we're pretty confident, but wasn't to be.
No, and I think as it turned out, the way things sort of played out with Omicron this year, last October would have been, was really the best time to do it, because had we waited thinking, we'll collect more signatures over the summer, we would have just ended up back at square one anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It was, and even now there's a lot of resistance to people door knocking and so on. It's not people are still pretty cautious about having random people turning up on their doorsteps.
Yeah.
So
West, y'all.